Hey guys, welcome to the Magfed Ranch Paintball channel, and today I'm going to be doing another headshot hump days. But before I get into it guys, subscribe to the channel, right? Smash that like button, turn on the notification bell so that way you're informed when I post new content. And of course, watch the whole video, but please share and comment at the end. I love all your guys' comments. I try my best to answer all of them on the YouTube channel, and of course our Facebook posts as well guys, because I think that's the best way for me to get the answers to you guys, or obviously my thoughts and comments. So please, love all the comments, and please share guys, get this information out there, because like I said, I think one of the things lacking in our Magfed community is just kind of obviously the information in terms of what works, what doesn't work, those type of things. Okay, so that's going to be kind of another reason why I'm shooting this video today guys, because today's headshot hump days we are going to discuss barrels. Now, obviously, just a precursor, I only have familiarity with one brand of barrel specifically, at least the majority of my test videos, of the testing that I've done, and of course, all the data that I'm going to present to you guys is from one brand of barrels. And that's what I've determined to be in terms of what I want to use for some reasons, and I'll get into those reasons here in a bit, but they are the Hammerhead one-shot rifle barrels for use with first strike rounds. Okay, guys? Now, I want to talk about all the things, all the different, variables that a barrel might bring into the equation, and why you should use them. Okay, and that's kind of my case today, because there's so much information out there. You hear people saying, "Oh, you should just use a smoothbore barrel." Oh, you should just use a barrel of a certain length. Oh, this rifle barrel is better than this rifle barrel. And so I want to present all the information to you guys as I come to find out about it. So currently, obviously today, right, Wednesday, the 19th of July, 2023, this is the current data I have for you guys. Okay, so first off, smoothbore versus rifle. Guys, you have to go with rifle barrels if you want the best accuracy and of course the best precision, consistency of the first strike rounds. Okay, I actually found this out kind of just through kind of a random testing occurrence way back in the day. So if you guys have watched some of my other videos, I told you guys about how I went through this huge journey, a lot of time, a lot of money spent trying to get my first Magfed markers to work with first strike rounds, from the T68 to the different conversions to the Tacamo kits to, the TGRs, the 468, right? So, make a long story short, I eventually fell onto the Paradigm Pro from Milsig back in the day. And so guys, I had gone to my range, right, my house, and we were shooting, well, I was just there by myself, but I was shooting 60 yards, right? I had, measured out 60 yards at the property, and I was going to test the 60-yard accuracy of the Paradigm Pro, and of course, the reliability, right, in terms of how many failures I had with the magazines, and so forth and so forth. And as I was shooting the marker, okay guys, one thing I've noticed, okay, because, well, hold on real quick, backtrack. I wanted to test not only the barrel that came with the Paradigm Pro, which I believe was a .689 or a .688, so it was a little bit overboard if I remember correctly. It wasn't the Lapco barrel .683. So if you guys remember, I told you guys I had another shooting video with the 468 where we used the Lapco .683 barrel back in the day. So I knew that barrel was really tight with the FSR. It would literally, obviously squeeze the FSR, and you can see like residue from the FSR after firing so many rounds with the Lapco barrel, okay, because of .683. And as I told you guys previously on my FSR video, right, that the majority of FSRs that I've inspected personally have been .686. Okay, so this Paradigm Pro barrel was about .688 or .689 if I remember correctly. It was a little overboard. But I also wanted to test the theory of using just a smoothbore barrel, okay? And so, as you guys know, the Milsigs, right, Falcon M17s, they have just your standard A5 threaded barrel. So I had my barrel from my Takamo kit that was roughly about the same length as my Paradigm Pro, which, if I remember correctly, was like 12 or 14 inches, somewhere around there, guys. Not super long, but not super short, right? And I wanted to see the accuracy differences of it, okay? First thing I noticed when I was shooting with the smoothbore barrel was how the rounds were coming out of the barrel, and then how it would react with obviously the fins on the first strike rounds. So obviously at a 60-yard distance, guys, and you guys can go test this for yourself and watch carefully. You know, the shooter obviously specifically because you're behind the marker, but obviously as an observer, you know, standing next to the shooter, you will see this as well, okay? With the smoothbore barrel, you will see that the FSR will literally kind of shoot out of the barrel with no spin on it. And it'll almost kind of shoot out of it, almost kind of like with a wobbleness to it, like a football that isn't spiraled correctly, right? So literally it's like you can see the FSR just push out the barrel, and it's either kind of cockeyed or a little bit slightly cockeyed. And what you'll see is that it'll stop mid-flight. It's just a split hesitation. It's just a split, but it's noticeable. You'll see that it'll stop, and then it'll start spinning. Because that's when, like, obviously the fins catches the air, and then it starts self-spinning, okay? And what I noticed with the smoothbore barrels is that it'll come out the barrel slightly different every time. Sometimes the FSR will be pointing slightly to the left. Sometimes it will be pointing slightly to the right, up, down. But either way, and then also sometimes it'll shoot out the barrel, because since it's just a smoothbore barrel, it'll literally just shoot out the barrel not at the same spot. Okay, so it'll have slight variations. So guys, when you think about it, that slight variation of how it lands outside in the air before it spins, that's going to create an inconsistency in your accuracy and your precision, right? Because it's going to be a different starting point. It's going to have different, obviously, spins depending on where it catches the air turbulence and then start spinning. And so in my testing, I saw those accuracy differences as well. You know, the accuracy groups with the smoothbore barrel, although not bad, they weren't nowhere near as good as with a rifle barrel in terms of consistency. And you see it. There was like a lack of accuracy and precision, if you guys know what that means, right? So when we say accuracy, we mean, is the round hitting where you're aiming, right? So if you put the dot on the bullseye, does it hit the bullseye? Or does it, you know, fall somewhere else? And then of course, precision is how consistent does it land in the same spot that you're aiming? And with the smoothbore barrels, yes, you got it in a man-sized target most of the time with a 60-yard target, but it's kind of like everywhere, right? Whereas with the rifle barrel, when I fired it at that distance, you'll notice, or I noticed, that when it comes out the barrel, it comes out pre-spinned, right? And so it's literally just zip, it just comes right out and it's already pre-spinning. There's no slight hesitation where you see the round kind of cocked or whatever, and then it starts to spin. It literally just zip, 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 just comes right out and it's already pre-spin. And of course, with that, the groups got smaller and smaller, okay? And this was even back in the day, guys, when I was just using it literally like, you know, some type of bag or some type of thing, just setting my marker on there. I didn't have the dual sandbag. I wasn't really like familiar with firearms, so I wasn't really, you know, controlling the trigger press, trying to hold the marker steady. And so you can imagine with better technique, the accuracy will be better as well. Okay, so that hopefully dispels the whole myth. But guys, you guys go do your own testing. This is what I've seen with the rifled versus smoothbore debate, okay? Let's talk about the different rifling next, because like I said, I'll fully disclose, I don't have experience with all the different barrels. My only experience right now so far has been with the Lapco 14-inch barrel, right? That was on the 468, you know, that I shot way back in the day. And then also I have that here too, guys, with the KAG 416 Delta clone marker. This is a 14-inch Lapco barrel as well, and so I'm gonna shoot some test videos in the future for you guys. But real quick, I've explained this in other videos. The Lapco 14-inch rifle barrel, the .683 bore diameter one, is in actuality only 10 inches approximately. And I'll show you guys that exactly here. So, for example, I have this MR18 with a 10-inch hammerhead rifle barrel, okay? And you guys will notice that if I line up the markers, you notice that the barrels are pretty much exactly the same length. You can see where the suppressor ends, and you can see where the muzzle is attached to the hammerhead barrel versus the suppressor on the Lapco barrel. And you see that they're very similar in length, okay? So, just real quick, the Lapco barrel is in actuality approximately 10 inches, okay? Just that, okay? So that barrel I've had experience with, and of course, like I told you guys, I have extensive knowledge with the hammerhead barrels. As you guys can see here, I have 10 inches, I have 6 inches, I have 16 inches, like this one on our MR27 IAR clone, right? This is kind of the clone of the new Marines combat rifle, the infantry automatic rifle, right? Pretty sweet looking marker. It's got a 16-inch hammerhead rifle barrel. And then of course our SAS, right? Our clone of our MR110 SAS. And this one's got a 20-inch barrel. So like I said, I've shot from 6 inches all the way to 20 inches, guys. So I have extensive knowledge. So real quick, the hammerhead barrel. I want to prove to you guys once for all what the majority of the first strike round's diameter is, and of course what the hammerhead barrel's diameter is. Okay guys, like I told you guys previously, the majority, I've shot over 10,000 rounds. More than 90% of the rounds I've fired has been .686, okay guys? And so the diameter of the hammerhead barrel is .687. Okay guys, and I've tested this with every barrel that I've purchased. I've obviously installed on my built markers that I build. And you guys will see it here. Okay, like I said, this is a .686 round. The majority of them are, and it will fall through. Okay, right, bam. Okay, it just fell through. Okay, so yes, it's a little bit slightly bigger than the .686, right? It's .687. And all the hammerhead barrels are that way. Okay guys, at least so far in my testing. It doesn't look like they've changed it. And as you guys can see, I've tested a lot of different barrels and different barrel lengths. Okay, so that's the next topic, right? So the hammerhead size of diameter of the barrel. And then also, what we need to discuss next, of course, is the rifling. I've noticed that the hammerhead rifling is fairly aggressive, right? And I don't know, hopefully, someone from Hammerhead can speak about this and maybe let the Magfed community know. We talk about giving this data out as much as we can, whatever, as long as it's not a trade secret, I guess. So if it's a trade secret, I could understand Hammerhead doesn't want to release it, but I would be curious to know if the rifling is different from the length of barrel, right? Like we know about ARs, right? There's different twist rates, right? 1.7, 1.8, 1.16, 1.12, 1.24, 1.9. You have all these different rates to stabilize different weight of bullets. And I'm curious if the FSR has different, rates depending on the length of barrel. I don't think they get into weights, but I would be curious if they have different rates for different weight FSRs as well too, but who knows? Anyways, that would be a cool thing. Hammerhead, dude, if you Whoever knows, if they can comment, that would be awesome. Okay, so that leads me into the topic of length, right? And guys, I've touched about this on a different video, and I've obviously, let people know out there as well too, but length plays a huge part in the accuracy and the precision of the FSR. And in my testing, like I said, all the rounds I've shot, it seems to be a consensus probability average that the longer barrels have better accuracy, especially as the distances increase, right, that you're firing at. So as you guys know, or if you didn't know, we zero all our markers at 20 yards, okay? The reason for that, of course, is twofold. One, 20 yards seems to be the distance at which the iron sights can have a reasonable zero, but more importantly, the 20-yard zero is typical of what is needed for a crossbow scope zero. So the majority of crossbow scopes will want you to zero at 20 yards. The only one that I have tested so far that needs a different zero distance is the UTG crossbow scope, the 4x32. That one needs a 10-yard zero, okay guys? But once you zero it in at those distances with the crossbow scopes, then the reticle holds are going to be useful using the first strike rounds. They actually follow very close to what the reticle holds are on the crossbow scope. So it's very useful. You don't have to adjust anything. You just use the different holds. You don't have to play with the adjustable riser until you get past 90 yards. That's what I've seen come to find out. Typically, the 80-yard shot, it uses about a 105, 100-yard hold on the reticle. Okay, guys, so just for FYI, okay? So anyways, length. It'd be very nice to know if, like I said, if the rate, the twist rate is different for the different length barrels. But that being said, until we know, I have come to see, right, with all the testing, that the longer the barrel, just the precision is better. Accuracy, not so much, right? So once again, right, accuracy is point of impact, right? Is the FSR round hitting where you're aiming? And so with the different barrels, the point of impact doesn't shift too much. One thing I've noticed with the point of impact, especially at the further distances, unfortunately, is that the FSR tends to curve to the left. And this was true with both the Lapco and the Hammerhead barrel. So I'm curious to know if maybe if the Nemesis barrel, or if there's another brand of rifle barrel out there, if they follow the same kind of trajectory. But in general, I've seen that the way it spins, the FSR tends to arc slightly to the left as the distances increase. But what I've noticed is that the point of impact doesn't shift really much with the different barrel lengths. What you do get, however, is better precision. So, if you're aiming, slightly right, at 80 yards, you're gonna have to aim slightly right of the target. Usually it's about half of the target to the right. So you're aiming on the right edge of a man-sized torso target to hit center. And you'll hit center regardless if it's a 10-inch barrel, a 16-inch barrel, 20-inch barrel, or all the other different barrel lengths in between. But what you'll get is better group sizing. And this is true depending on the first strike rounds you use, right? So guys, check out that video I shot with the FSR, right? Cracking the code. But if you match grade your rounds, the different match grades will affect the different length barrels, right? So, for example, these are our sniper rounds, okay? These are our Mark 68 Mod 3 rounds, okay? So, we've tested these rounds with the barrels, all the different barrels, and it will improve accuracy with the different length barrels, except for the short barrels. They don't seem to do as much of an increase in accuracy with the short barrels. That's the reason why we have our SBR, right? Our Mark 68 Mod O rounds that are more for the 10-inch barrels and below. But with the 14-inch or longer barrels, we've seen reduced group sizes of anywhere between 2 to 6 inches. And guys, once again, this is a probability. So for example, let's say on average with a 16-inch barrel like the one on our MR27 here, let's say on average with the general purpose rounds, you're getting a 8 to 10-inch grouping at 80 yards, which is nothing to sneeze at, guys. I mean, 8 to 10 inches, that's pretty much a guaranteed hit, right? That's what do they call that? I believe that's called point of target instead of point area aiming, right? You're aiming at a target and you're expecting to hit a target, not just an area, right? So that's great accuracy. You're hitting a man-sized target at that distance. But with the DMM or the sniper rounds, you're getting a 2-inch to 6-inch decrease in that group size. And so instead of 8 to 10 inches, with the sniper rounds, you might be getting 5 to 8 inches, right? On a probability of scale. So on average, your group size is reducing. And guys, I mean, 5 to 8 inch groups at that 80-yard distance, that's a headshot at those distances. I mean, that's a guaranteed headshot. I mean, that's within the size of the average size, human skull. Okay? So that's a very huge, significant increase in performance when you talk about the longer barrels. And when we talk about length, not just with the FSR rounds, the 10-inch barrels tend to get, if we just talk about round for round, they tend to get about anywhere between 10 to 14 inches groups, right? Sometimes on the high side of 16, but on average, we're seeing 10 to 14 inch groups with the 10-inch barrels with just our GPR rounds, right? General purpose rounds. But with the longer length barrels, like I said, 16 and up, you're getting 8 to 10, right? Or sometimes as low as 6, but closer to 8 to 10, or sometimes 8 to 12, right? So regardless, you're getting about a 2 to 4 inch reduction in size with longer barrels using the exact same round. Okay, guys? And this is just with the hammerhead barrels, like I told you guys, that I have extensive knowledge with. I'm going to start shooting, like I said, the Lapco barrels, so I'm curious to see what that is. But, apples to apples, obviously I have to compare the accuracy of the Lapco quote-unquote 14.5-inch barrel, which is actually closer to 10.5 inches, to our hammerhead 10-inch barrel, right? And seeing if the accuracy is similar to this 10-inch barrel marker. Real quick, why is the Lapco barrel listed as 14.5 even though it's closer to 10.5? Well, it's because Lapco counts the tip of the barrel, and then also anybody that's familiar with the T15, there's a barrel adapter at the end of the barrel that attaches it to the marker, right? That's where you have the groove, and that's where you have the different slots for the magazine feed, and then also the hopper feed option, right? So you can rotate it, right? But because of that adapter at the end, and then the muzzle at the end, they count those two links with the barrel. So that's the reason why it's about 14.5 inches. But you have to, in actuality, the barrel itself is just 10 inches, 10.5 inches, okay? So we talked about bore diameter, guys. We talked about rifling. We talked about different lengths. Okay, and consistency real quick. I know people have said this and that, right? Some people have said, oh, Nemesis barrels are trash. I've heard some of that. I've heard a lot of you guys out there on the forums and on the Facebook say that Nemesis barrels are the best with the little, nips attachment. Guys, I want to see that testing. I want to see some groups, right? So if you guys got some really groups out there, like I told you guys, I'm getting, on average 8-inch groups, with a 16-inch, 14-inch and above barrel at 80 yards. You guys get better groups than that, I'd love to see them. I want video evidence, right? Let's help each other prove what best and for all, what's the best, right? And of course, I want to do testing too with the different barrels. So I will do that, continue moving forward, right? But let's not talk about it. Let's shoot those in. If you guys have those barrels that you guys said is the most accurate, let's shoot them and see what they fall out to, right? Or shoot the manufacturer, right? I'm asking you guys right now, FS, Hammerhead, Nemesis, whoever makes these barrels, do an accuracy video. Don't just give us word results, because I mean, you guys can just write stuff down. Who knows what you guys are writing down? Shoot some video. See the freaking shots. Let's see what the measurements are. Okay? So that's one thing I would like to say. And then last thing I would like to say is that the barrel, as important as a role as it plays to increase the accuracy and precision of your marker, it's also just part of a system, guys, right? And so it's also the marker itself, right? The consistency of the marker from shot to shot, because that FPS fluctuation, of course, is gonna mess with the elevation, right? If you have one low elevation, it's gonna shoot short. If you have a high FPS, it's gonna shoot a little bit longer, right? So your group size is going to be high or low. And then, of course, the markers, how it's put together, right? We talked about the T15 wobble, and if you guys don't fix that T15 barrel wobble, right, whether by adjusting that nut at the very top, right, the adapter nut, or if you guys use their new barrel sleeve that keeps the barrel from wobbling, that wobble is gonna mess it up, right? And then you gotta talk about the shooter, right? A stable platform, right? I use a couple sandbags. I shoot real firearms, so I know how to press the trigger, right? And then reset the trigger smoothly, so I'm not jerking the trigger around. So that's gonna help in terms of your accuracy. Real quick, I would love to see better triggers with these markers. Their triggers are, I'll be honest with you, kind of trash. The T15 has a slightly better trigger than the M17, just because it, you know, it really feels like a standard AR combat trigger. Whereas the M17 has a very kind of hard wall and then it breaks. And so it's very difficult to figure out the breaking point of the M17 versus the T15. But besides that, guys, obviously a stable platform shooter comes a huge play. And then lastly, I want to say is going to be your optic, right? If you're going to be using a red dot versus a 4x32 crossbow, or a 2.5, right, variable speed crossbow, or a 3x hot crossbow, right? The target acquisition, right, the better sight picture, you know, all those things are kind of come into play to give you better groupings at the longer distances, okay? So it's part of a system, right? It's the marker, it's the efficiency, it's the barrel, it's the first strike rounds, it's the optic, it's the trigger press, right? It's the way the marker is put together, making sure that everything is stable and not loose. It's the shooter, right? How stable are you? Are you shaky? Are you jittery? Or, you know, do you do breath control and you're very freaking calm and you don't move around that much and your trigger press is smooth and it, you know, and it's consistent. So all those things are going to come into play, guys. But when it comes to barrel lengths, huge part in terms of your accuracy and precision. Guys, hopefully this information was helpful, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, please write us and give me a big thumbs up. And guys, I'll check you guys next time. Peace.